So I'd like to thank you for joining me today. I really enjoyed your performance, and I'm super excited to have you on. And so to
Excited
start
to be
off,
here.
before we jump into your current projects, I want to talk a little bit about your journey of being a performer. And so you graduated with a BFA in musical theater from the Webster Conservatory for the Arts in St. Louis. And so, how did your experience there help improve the artist you are today?
Great question. Um, Webster was a little bit of, and still is, a little bit of a graduate program tucked into an undergraduate program. So while I have a BFA in musical theater, um, I I didn't really touch singing songs or acting songs for about a year and a half. I spent a lot of time doing Meisner technique and mask work and Shakespeare and dialect work. I did two years solely just on dialect work. While also taking voice lessons in ballet. But when it came to taking quote unquote musical theater lessons, that really didn't start happening until about my junior year. It was a very intense program, a lot of cuts, but it shaped who I became as a performer and as an actor. And I can definitely trace a lot of the work that I've done proudly back to one or two professors at the time, especially my Shakespeare and dialect professor, Bruce Longworth, just really shaped exactly who I feel like I am today as a performer. Um, yeah, I would say, especially the projects that I tend to try and drift towards or that I gravitate towards, including the one that I'm in right now. Often I can harken back to the lessons that I learned in those 4 years.
That's awesome. And so, when you were younger, what got you into theater, or what got you quote unquote bit by the theater bug?
Well, it's interesting. I grew up in New York City. So that didn't hurt, for sure. Um, the first Broadway show I ever saw was actually Starlight Express, which is another Andrew Lloyd Webber show. I saw the original Broadway company, and I was also already hooked on trains, so it was like a perfect match for me. But I was apparently singing before I could even speak. I was a very like musical child. I really loved to sing. I loved music. Um, and I went to a little like tiny I moved with my family to Montclair, New Jersey at a very early age, and I went to this little magnet school called Hillside in Montclair, and they had a really lovely arts program there that kind of shaped my voice a little bit more. I did a middle school production. This is back before there was like a Phantom Junior that high schools could do. We did a middle school production of Phantom of the Opera, and I played Raoul.
Oh,
And I hadn't even seen it yet. We just like it was completely illegal. They had like let's see, I think most of the lyrics were taken from the liner notes of the like the CD, and we had the vocal selections, and they pieced everything together pretty well. We even had a wooden chandelier that fell at the speed of like a snail, but it fell.
no.
And that really started my love for musical theater. My dad actually took me that next year to go see Phantom for the first time on Broadway. I fell in love with it. Mark Jacoby was the Phantom. Like it was just wonderful. And very shortly after that, I actually moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. But I went to a performing arts high school down there that's actually pretty famous. Corey Mitchell, one of the professors there, won the very first Tony for education, for arts education. Um, Eva Noblezada went there. Grace Ann Kingsbury went there. A lot of people over the years have like graduated from there and gone on to have really successful careers in the arts. And I was one of the first graduating classes there, which was really cool. So I graduated in '99, and I had a professor there that steered me towards Webster. So it all just sort of like kind of worked. And that school was the first time that I realized that this was something I actually wanted to do as a living. Before then, as a kid, I just was like in love with it. And I didn't realize that the people that were putting it on every night were doing it as a job. I thought they were just like, okay, I'm a doctor, and now tonight I'm going to do this play on Broadway. So I didn't realize that it could actually be something I could pursue as a profession. And so going to high school at this lovely arts school really shaped the trajectory of my life. It told me that this was absolutely what I wanted to do.
That's incredible. And so you're currently portraying the Auctioneer and Monsieur Reyer in the Phantom of the Opera National Tour. And so what was the audition process like for this for this production?
Great question. It was a long one. I had never really been seen for the show before, ever. I had honestly over time dismissed it for a little while. I mean, we're talking about, I think the last time I had seen it was in like 1999. And so I dismissed it for a while. Once it reopened after the pandemic, there was a lot of renewed interest in the show. I even went and saw it a couple of times just to take it in and how beautiful it really is. The artistry of it, especially Hal's original vision of it, is just stunning. And so when the initial audition came in, it was, I believe I received it in December of, I had an appointment for Monsieur Andre, one of the two theater owners. And it was, I received it in December of 24, and it was on like January 16th or something of 25. And it was when they were starting to look at people for this new touring production that was about to go out. Right around the same time that they were actually casting for Masquerade, which was crazy. So I went in, I prepared as well as I could. I even took the material into a class that I had been taking, this sort of like callback class that I was taking, just to like really dive into the material and into the core of who Andre is. And the audition went very well, and they even thanked me in the room for my preparation. And Seth and I kind of, our director, kind of joked around just about like who Andre really is, and had a good laugh. And I walked away, and then had a callback, and that callback wasn't for a little while, but I came back in March, and made it all the way to the final pairings of the Andres and Fearmans. And so the next day my agent called me. That went very well. The next day my agent called me and said they're not going to move forward with Andre, but they really like you and they'd like to see you for ensemble if you'd be interested in doing something in the ensemble with a cover for Andre. I love the show so much, and so of course I said yes. This is a great opportunity for anyone to be a part of. So that led to about 3 more months of, if you can believe it, of auditions, because then they needed to see, okay, can this person not just sing a solo line, right? Can this person sing one of the hardest harmony lines in the show? Can this person, we know he can do Andre, but can he do other material in the show? Can he dance? So those are all like interesting questions that you don't always get when you're just looking at someone for one role. So it took, I would say, 3 more times in the room over that course to go in. And so I went in, I read for Monsieur Reyer. I felt upon getting the text for Monsieur Reyer, upon getting these scenes, that I it was me. Like it just I had an experience over the years as being like the associate music director for the Broadway Inspirational Voices, and so I was used to like flunking out notes that certain tenors weren't getting, and then getting frustrated. So I was also a teacher of music theory at NYU for 4 years, and so understanding that kind of music, being able to play a whole tone scale on a stage, understanding what 7/8 feels like. Those were all things that Monsieur Reyer really needs to know, in my opinion. And it was great to be able to like bring that energy into the room. And so I felt like the second I walked into the room and started doing these scenes, that it just was it felt right to me. And as I know now, it felt right to them too, which was great. So my final callback was literally just supposed to be a movement call. It was actually a very big day. It was like, this is, you're going to come in. It's this Monday. I actually was already doing a concert like that night at Carnegie Hall. And so I was like trying to figure out if I could miss the like sound check in the afternoon so I could go to this final callback. Anyway, so I had my stuff ready to go. And then at the last minute, my agent calls me and says, okay, we know we told you you don't have to do any more material. You're just going to go in and dance, but they actually want to hear you on the auctioneer stuff too. They haven't heard you do it yet. They just want to see how you sound on it. So I freaked out because that's my favorite part of the entire show.
It's a fun
And I
part. I mean,
it's a really fun role.
yeah,
It's really fun, and it just like I don't think there's a better. In all honesty, I think you'd be hard pressed to find a better opening in musical theater. Like it's just
yeah.
such a great iconic opening. Anyway, so I had 2 days to basically put that together as well. Went in on that Monday first. Thankfully, because I was already performing at Carnegie Hall that evening and I had to be in a tuxedo, I just wore my tuxedo to the audition. And I was like, I promise I'm not being ironic. I literally am like, you know. So I went in, I did all the auctioneer stuff first. I had a great time. Um, and then I changed into some movement clothes. We did masquerade. And then they sent me to another room and they fit me for costumes. And I thought in my brain, I thought for sure this must be it. But there were easily two different groups of 15 people, like 30 people that they were looking at, and they were fitting every single one of them for costumes. They were doing all this other stuff, and in our brains we're thinking there's no way that everyone in this room is going to be in this cast. And we were right. And I know how good it felt to go in to really, I felt like crush the dance call, crush this like auctioneer audition, get fitted for costumes, walk away. That all feels like a sure thing. And I can't imagine how hard it must have been for anyone in that room because everyone in that room was so talented. But like to go in and have that experience and then hear that you didn't book it, like that's got to be so tough. Um, so I walked away just being like, please don't let that be me. I pestered my agent for like 2 weeks because apparently what happened after that is they knew they had the cast, they knew who they wanted. All my agent could really tell me was, you're in the mix. Like you're in the mix. Don't worry. The final list had to be approved by Cameron McIntosh, and that took a little while. So it had to be then sent to London, where Cameron McIntosh said, "Yes, this is okay." So it was another like 2 weeks of silence after that final callback. But I officially had an offer 2 weeks after.
That's like an incredible journey. It's like
And fun fact, I was it was crazy. And fun fact, I was doing at the time. So I left to go to start rehearsals for a production of Come From Away up at Ogunquit, Maine. And in the cast, in my company, was Isaiah Bailey. So the
wow.
final chapter to this story
Yeah.
was that I got her an email with the offer, and I got excited, but I didn't want to tell anyone yet. But Isaiah was standing there. He saw me get the email, and he followed me, and he said, "Did you get an offer for something?" And I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "Can you tell me what it is?" And I said, "Well, it's Phantom of the Opera." And he looked at me and he said, "I think you should take it because I'm the Phantom." And so we both kind of like had a great experience for the rest of like that run because we had that connection. So
Yeah, that's like a great way to end the journey too. Like that's a
exactly.
incredible like connection. Yeah. And so with this tour, you have been on tour. This tour has been going for a few months, a good amount of time now. Has there been a stop that has like really stood out to you of like I really enjoyed stopping here? And then is there a stop that you're looking forward to in the upcoming months?
Yes, actually St. Louis, because I went to college there. And so I always love returning to the Fox. It's a beautiful, beautiful theater. Um, and I just got to go do and experience a lot of fun things. We also put together a benefit while we were there as a company, to help out the people of Minneapolis because we had just been there and we really wanted to just sort of try and give back. Um, and so, yeah, that was just such a lovely 2 weeks of my life. But I do love to find something fun and new to do in every city.
Yeah, for sure. And like the Fox, like you said, everyone I talk to, like everyone loves the Fox. Like it's such a beautiful venue to like perform in.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's over 4,000 seats, so it's huge.
Is
But
that the one that has like the sky ceiling?
so there's two. Actually, there's technically three. There's a Fox. They were all movie houses owned by the original Fox of like the Fox Empire now. But this was there's a Detroit, there's a St. Louis, and there's an Atlanta.
Got it.
Detroit and St. Louis are almost identical. They were built as these sort of like gothic, like very like grand sort of movie palaces. The one in Atlanta is equally beautiful, but it has a little bit more of an Arabian Nights theme.
Yeah, that
It was an old Masonic temple that they then transferred. So that has like the starry night sky. I've performed there as well. It's beautiful.
has Phantom stopped there, or are they stopped?
They have in the past. We most likely will at some point. I just don't know when.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so along with this national tour, you've also performed a couple times on Broadway, including The Lion King, Gentleman's Guide, and Rent. And so, has there been a role that's really stuck out to you of like performing that like really meant a lot to me?
Sure. There's a few actually. So I would say in the like the kind of in my within my resume, of the shows that you mentioned, um, yes, I absolutely loved getting to play the Dice With family whenever I went on for that in Gentleman's Guide. It was just it's it was a dream role I didn't even know I was dreaming about until I got to start doing it. And then I was having so much fun. Um, I also enjoyed getting to play Mark in Rent. Honestly, though, in my journey in Rent, getting to do my usual track every night in that, which was Stephen Others, that's the Will I solo at the beginning of the song Will I. It was it was around the 10th anniversary of the show. It just felt so meaningful to me at that time. Getting to have that vulnerability and sing that solo every night was just like a dream come true. I honestly feel a really similar feeling about doing the auctioneer every night. It just feels, even though it's not like a principal role, it just feels so like meaningful to me. My favorite role I think I've ever played or show that I've ever done is actually a very short-lived show written by Miller and Tyson, who wrote Tuck Everlasting and Fugitive Songs, which I also did off Broadway. I did this show called The Mysteries of Harris Burdick, and it was up at Barrington Stage Company, which basically is where like Spelling Bee started and a lot of other shows that have
Actually,
gone
I
on
just did
to.
this knowing me tonight. So
Yeah, well, best of luck. That's awesome. I can't wait to like hear what you're auditioning for in a bit. That's so cool. This show was it was based on a Chris Van Allsburg book. It was a this tiny little children's book that was basically pencil sketchings and just underneath every pencil sketch was a caption, and that's all it was. And it was meant to inspire creativity in the reader. But these two writers, Miller and Tyson, came along. Chris and Nathan came along, and they created with Joe Calarco, our director, this like through line that connected all of them, and it was about a missing child at the end of the day. But it was filled with such imagination and such wonder, and the music was stunning. It was so good. And William Finn was actually on staff there at the time, and so he was constantly in rehearsals, and it taught me actually one of my favorite lessons in theater, which was when you are in a if you are in a show that is like or in a scene that is like just gutting, just like the material is sad, dark, and it's so easy in those moments to just fall into a place of sadness or despair because we think that that's the tone. And so as actors we go to that place. And there was this scene, it was this really beautiful song simply singing about skipping stones on a lake, and that was it. And the juxtaposing kind of moment that was happening was that they were also dragging the lake looking for this lost child. And it was really sad. People, we were all a mess, we were crying. And finally, after a rehearsal, Bill Finn, in his like, in his own epic way, was like, it's so beautiful. I just wish there weren't so many times that I wanted to kill myself. And so we're laughing and crying. And finally, he suggests, look, let's try it again, but um, I just want you all to think of something joyful while you're singing it. Think of something hopeful. And so we all tried it again, and the scene was exactly the same, but we all had a smile on our face. And when that scene finished, everyone in the room was, as actors, we were all okay, but everyone in the room was moved beyond like to tears. And it's just it's this, you see the same thing in a lot of shows. You actually see it in Spelling Bee as well, the I Love You trio. There's not a moment. If she was just standing there singing, oh my God, like mama, 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 and being like gutted and crying, it would it's a different feeling than when you've got these people just singing "I love you" and it's like with joy and heart, but the audience is reading a totally different reaction. It was such a beautiful lesson to learn, and that entire experience at Barrington Stage Company, getting to do that show with my heroes, is, it's a very long-winded story, but it was one of my favorite things I've ever done. Definitely a dream role. Sadly, the author came and saw it. Chris Van Allsburg came and saw it, and said it wasn't exactly the way he had ever envisioned the book, and so he kind of put the stop on it, because I think had he not done that, it already kind of had a trajectory to go to second stage after that and could have possibly even moved. But
Yeah, that's
that's art.
yeah, it sounds like a beautiful story though. And so along with uh, doing Broadway national tours off Broadway, you've also done a couple workshops like The Greatest Showman, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, Jungle Book, and more. And so, what has your experience been like working on some of the workshops for some of these great stories?
Great question. Thank you. I've gotten known within the industry as being someone that can pick up on sight reading very, very quickly. So that's often the first experience, is just being asked to do these things. And a lot of times, once you start to get known within for music directors or within the scene, that you're someone that can come in, learn music quickly, and make a big choice as an actor, you'll get asked back to do these things. And so that's where my journey with Hercules started, and also with things like The Greatest Showman, with any of those, with Alfred Hitchcock Presents. That one actually happened because Stephen Letvak, who had written Gentleman's Guide, asked me specifically to do this piece. And it was really cool because I got to work with John Doyle and a slew of names that I had looked up to for a very long time. But in every one of those scenarios, I've had to try and remind myself or tell myself that it's developmental work. Go in, have a great time, make a bold choice, do your best with the music, and take notes if the director or the music director gives notes, you take them, you go, it's your job to help develop the material. And so within every one of those, whether it's been a piece that I thought was great, the most recent one I don't think is on my resume yet, but Princess Bride. I just recently did a workshop of that before going out on tour with this. Same thing. It almost always becomes a magical experience because you can see the seed of what this piece is about to be. It's heartbreaking when a piece moves on and you don't get to be a part of it, or when a piece moves on and it changes directors, which happens actually a lot. And so often when that happens, then you sort of are like, well, this lovely thing that is now something different, and that's okay. That's part of the business end of it. But it's thrilling. It's thrilling.
Yeah, for sure. And so, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Uh, to be, oh, that's a really good question. Breathe, breathe, and get better with money. That's the one. If I could tell any, and now when I do master classes, I'm like, make sure, because this industry is, um, it's hard. It's hard, and most jobs that you get are temporary. They're 2 months, maybe a month sometimes. Um, and even when you do a show, you might do that show for 2 years, or you might do it for three, or you might do it for 6 months. But it's a living wage for a little while, you just have to find something else. So that you're not, as an actor, as a young actor, thinking, oh my God, now I have to go wait tables again. I've got to find another job. I've got a job. I've got to scramble. I've got to do this. Getting good with figuring out a safety job that makes you happy, and that is accessible. So for me, the last 4 years was great because I was able to teach at NYU. And then because that was an adjunct position, I was able to do other things, right? I could leave and go do a project and then come back, and my job was safe. That was awesome. Those are hard. Those kinds of jobs are hard to find. So getting good at knowing what your money is, saving money, making as passionate as you are about everything else, make that a passion too. And the good news is there's so many ways to do that now with like different apps and stuff. And so that would be the one advice that I would give myself in terms of the business end of things for theater: patience, breathe. It's going to be okay, right? It's get good at accepting rejection as something that is good, not necessarily bad, right? That it's just telling you, okay, this one's not for me. What can I learn from this? Move on. And then just getting good at money so that when times come, if you're in a pinch, that it's not this like devastating thing.
Yeah, for sure. And so this next question kind of ties into the last one. But what advice would you give to younger performers who want to pursue acting as a career?
Yep. I would say the same thing. I would say the one thing I would also add to that though is that there's no one path. So you can, if you want to pursue this as a career, know that the word career holds a lot of weight. And I would actually encourage everyone that wants to pursue this as an art form to think about the career word as something completely separate. And right now to just focus on the craft and the joy of it. What is it that makes you tick within this, right? What is it that you love about this? And to just dive wholeheartedly into that end of it, because the career is tied more to the business end of things. And honestly, a lot of that changes yearly now, right? What they're looking for when they're casting people, what they're, all of that, even down to like type things like, what is your type? Well, that might change. It might not only change with you as you grow and learn, but what they're looking for in terms of type might change. Current practices with different theaters and what they're looking for in terms of like, oh, this role is only ever played by a tall, skinny white person or whatever. That all has changed. So, and that's really exciting. So there's less limitations. But I would say in terms of like wanting to do this as a career, just getting really down into the like nitty gritty of like, what is it about this that I really love and holding on to that seed no matter what. Because there may come a day where you're like, this is not what I want to do. And that's also okay. It doesn't mean that you aren't an actor or that you aren't a singer. It just means that you don't want to do the career side of things right now, or maybe the business side of things is overwhelming, but you still really love to sing. You still really love to act. Well, there's a world where you can do all of those things, no matter what. And I think that the artists that I most look up to are those people.
Yeah, for sure. That's great advice. And that actually wraps up the interview today. I'd like to thank you for joining me.
My pleasure.